Salutations everyone, welcome to another cleaning and restoring. In this video we will be doing a Game Boy Advance SP. Now this is the flip version of the Game Boy, the one that I'm holding right here that's red. If you came here thinking that I was doing a Game Boy Advance that looks like this, then don't watch this video. However, I did do a video on this one already, so just click the link in the description below and you'll be taken to cleaning and restoring on this Game Boy because they are different. I would not suggest trying to do this on your own by following this tutorial. So now, before I do anything, let me point out that this does work, and it should work after I take it apart. So the first step is there's one single Phillips head screw. Well, before we start, let me tell you, you will need a tri-wing screwdriver. And if you don't have one, then just don't even attempt to take this apart because you won't be able to. If you do manage to get it apart without one, you will not be able to get it to put back together. So there's one Phillips head screw that I know of, and it's right here above the battery pack, and you do have to take this out because you don't want this thing to be powered while you're taking it apart. So after you take this little screw out, it won't actually come out of the little piece that falls off. The screw is made to stay in place. But once you get this off, you can put that aside. This can obviously be cleaned on its own. It's just a piece of plastic and a screw. And under here, right here, this big white square right here that my finger's on is the battery pack. So you're going to take that out. You can just get it out with your fingernail. It's relatively easy to get out. I don't have fingernails, and I managed to get this out. And you're going to want to put this aside somewhere, nowhere near where it's going to get wet, because that would be horrible. So I'm going to set it way over there. Now there are actually several tri-wing screws that you're going to be taking out. There's one right here. I'm going to put it closer. There's one right here where the games would go in. And then there's one on each corner, right here, 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 and here. There's also one right up here where the battery pack was, so I'm going to start with that one. Maybe I should set my screwdriver so it won't be tightening screws. Ow. I said ow, meanwhile I just dropped this. Alright, so let's start taking these screws out. And they're relatively short, tiny screws, so you're going to want to be careful where you put them, because you don't want to lose any of these. But it doesn't honestly take that many turns to get these out. They are really tiny screws. Actually, this one stuck to the tip of the screwdriver. So you're going to do your best to actually hold the two pieces together when you're taking out these screws, because they're going to start falling apart. The two halves of the little game thing are going to start falling apart, basically, once you take out like these top three ones like I just did. And you don't want it to fall apart because the plastic could crack if all the screws aren't taken out already. Alright, two more, the two bottom corners. These screws, as long as you have the tri-wing screwdriver like I have, these screws are really easy to get out. It works just like obviously any other screwdriver. Just gotta be cautious. Fun story, I'm actually taking all these screws out and putting them on top of the other Game Boy that I had here that I showed you at the very beginning of the video. Alright, so the last screw is always the hardest to get out because it's the last one holding everything together. So after you get all the screws taken out, you're just going to gently take the two halves apart like this. And, I mean, it's relatively simple, honestly. They come out pretty easily. And basically, this is what you're getting with. This is the bottom half of the Game Boy. And you want to be careful washing this because where the cartridges, where the games go in, like right in this area right here. There's no electronics here, however there is a piece of metal, and metal holds onto water really well sometimes. So you want to be really careful when you're washing this. And if you really want to be cautious, there are actually two little tiny, I'll point to them with the screwdriver, there's two tiny Phillips head screws right here and here. You can take those out if you want to, and I'm actually going to, just for the sake of the video. Also, the power switch is right here. You can just take that out on its own. It just pulls out like the other piece. You can wash the power switch that you got out. And if I could get these screws are really tiny, so you need a tiny Phillips head screwdriver. But if you do take this little metal piece out, make sure you don't lose the screws, because you don't want to accidentally put a tri-wing screw in there, because they could be different. But it just falls out like any other thing. And make sure you don't lose that piece. You probably don't want to wash this little piece of metal because although it doesn't touch the actual game, like innards I guess is the word, you still don't want it to get wet and stay wet. So you don't have to take these buttons out because they're extremely hard to get out. Actually, they're not at all, really. You just pull up on them. But they're connected by a spring that doesn't come out very easily, so I would just leave them in there because you can wash this whole piece now as it is. So let's put that in the wash pile. So now you're left with this. Now, before I say anything, you won't be able to take, as far as I know at least, you aren't able to take this top half where the screen is apart. I'm sure there's a way to, I'm just not advanced enough to know how to. So we're just going to stick with cleaning the inside of the bottom half. So there are a few Phillips head screws holding this like big mechanism in place, so I can see at least. Like I say in every video, this is my first time doing this, so I'm not actually sure how well this is. So they're basically, mine are like brass screws, and there's one right here, one right here, and one right here. Those are the only ones that I see visible, so I'm going to take all those out and separate them. Be very careful you don't lose these screws, because they're actually even shorter, or they should be shorter than the tri-wing screws. So it's really important that you don't lose those, because they're tiny and they're easy to lose. Alright, so after you take those out, you want to basically pull up, and it should come out, as far as I know. I would pull up on the two little plugs right here, or outlets, and it'll just pull right out. And you want to be careful because there is like cables connecting it to this, to where the screen would be, and you just want to be careful that you don't knock it over, or tear out the cables, I guess is the word. And so from this step, you could go further, because there is one Phillips head screw right here. I'm not sure what that's holding together, honestly, but I don't want to take it out because I don't need to. So once you get to this step, you can take out your little rubber pieces and your buttons, and obviously you can wash those. If you're wondering why I'm washing this, or cleaning and restoring it, it's because of the fact that I bought this at Goodwill, and that I'm nervous that it could be like, although it does work, I'm nervous that it could be really dirty. So let's get the two buttons out that were stuck in there. Alright, those are really tiny buttons, so we don't want to lose those. And I just threw one right after I said you don't want to lose them. Alright, just making sure we weren't running close to on time here. Alright, let's get this the A button out. Alright, got the A button out. Alright, I'm not sure what this rubber went to. Oh, okay, I'm caught up now. Alright, so after you got all the buttons and rubber taken off, I will actually see what this Phillips head screw right here is for, just so I can take it out, because this might make it easier to clean, in all honesty, if I can get the screwdriver lined up. Oh. Okay, this is another screw that doesn't come all the way out, but if you unscrew it, it just takes off this half of it, this little piece right here. So that way you probably has that there just so you can take the screen off easier. But I'm not worried about taking the screen off because you can just clean that with like a little wipe or something. So this is basically the inside of a Game Boy Advance. You can't clean anything else further like inside than what I have right here without like special tools. Up here, mine's really dirty right here, but this is actually like scratches and marks that I can't get off. So I'm not too worried about washing the outside, I just want to wash the inside, which I got all the pieces out. So I'll also wash this little piece just because I took it off. But so I'm going to go wash everything, and I'll be back when everything's dry to put it back together. Okay, I am back. Everything's washed and completely dried. So I'm just going to bring all the pieces down here. Here's the bottom, battery pack cover, this little piece that fell off when I didn't know what I was doing, rubber, 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 A and B buttons, the start and select buttons that are really tiny, D-pad power switch, that little strip of metal I'll keep up there, and the main, I guess, brain of the game. So first thing we're going to do is put the bottom back together because this is relatively simple. You're going to take these two little, well you can't see these, but you're going to take the two little Phillips screws and this piece of metal and put them back into place. Make sure it goes the right way. I'll be honest, I don't remember which way is the right way. Okay, so it should go like this. The black should be facing, there's a black side and a all silver side. The black side should be facing up. Now these screws are not going to go in without a fight. Alright. And my dog's barking at nothing probably. Alright, let's put these screws back in. Let's get the, oh, that one spun out of my hand. Get the other screw in. Alright, we're good here. So after you screw that into place, then you get the tiny little power switch. And you put that back in. I put it in the complete wrong way because it would have been facing inward. Alright, it's easy to get in. There's one side that has like a little, I guess, squiggle part, if you can see that. That should be going down towards the side that the metal is on. And obviously you're going to want to keep it in the, make sure you check that it's in the off position whenever you're putting it back together. So now you're going to take the other side, this side, and flip this back over if you put it back. And put all the little pieces back into place. The D-pad. Actually, wait, sorry. If you're already doing that, I apologize. You might want to put this little piece back into place if you took it off. I did, so I probably want to put this back into place to make sure that I do everything in the same order. So you're going to have to kind of hold it in place, which is hard to do. But this is kind of an odd piece to put back in. It's not actually that hard now that I'm doing it. I think it's going in. I can't even tell. Yeah, alright. That wasn't that hard of a piece to put back in. Alright, so after you get that in, then you're going to put in your buttons like your D-pad. And then put the rubber over top of that. What's helpful is that they make a bunch of little holes in the rubbers to know where they line up. And if you don't see those, then I guess I'm sorry. I don't know how to help you with that. Now, two of the rubbers look the same. They both make like an 8 shape like this. There's a bigger one like this, and there's one that's slightly smaller. They both look identical though. The bigger one goes over the A and the B buttons. If that helps, that should help because that's the only way I can describe it. And the smaller one goes over the start and select buttons. Now, the A and B buttons are really easy and helpful. The start and the select buttons, it doesn't matter where they go. The A and the B buttons, they make little notches sticking out of the side of them, so you know exactly where they're supposed to go. So it shouldn't be too hard to figure out where they go when you're putting everything back together. In the start and select buttons, you can mix them up, it doesn't matter. There's no markings on them that tell them where they're specifically supposed to go. After you do that, you can flip the big mechanism back into place. Get your 3 tiny Phillips head screws. I'm actually going to have to put it down and put the screw onto the screwdriver. Good thing this is a magnetic tip one. And then screw it back into place like this. I'm going to have to do this for all 3 of them because these are way too tiny of screws to try and drop into place. Smaller the thing you're working with, usually the smaller the screws you'll have. And in this series, if I keep going with it, which I want to, if I keep going within this series, I'll probably end up... Oh my god, wait, is this what I think it is? Oh, I forgot about this button, the tiny little light button. Alright, a little technical difficulties here, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. This tiny little brightness or screen dimmer button, I'm trying to pick it up so this tiny little button I forgot about. So you're going to really want to make sure you don't lose that one when you're putting this back together. Also, somehow the power switch fell back out of the bottom. I'm not sure if I just... Oh yeah, it fell out when I tried to get the button out of there. I totally forgot about that button. Good thing there's like no rubber that goes over it or anything. Alright, so now let's backtrack a step. Put the brain back into place. I always call it the brain because, I mean, what else would you call it? I guess you could call it the heart. But wouldn't that be... This would be the heart, right? The battery pack? It doesn't really matter. So we're going to have to do the same thing. Get 3 tiny Phillips screws. Put them on the screwdriver. And then screw it back into place. This is a painstaking process, but it really... Doing something like this to a game, or a controller, or a console, or anything... Taking it apart and cleaning the inside just from like dust and stuff helps severely. It makes everything so much nicer and cleaner. And sometimes it'll make it work again. Just taking you could have a game console that doesn't work, take it apart, put it back together, clean it, and it works fine again. It's weird to think about, but it does work. So now that that's screwed back into place, this is all in place. Now we can put the two halves back together. Be cautious when you're putting it back together, because when you take this piece, you want to make sure that the power switch doesn't fall out, because it's going to be hanging there. So you might want to hold this bottom piece flat and drop this into place. And it should fit together really, really easily. So then, this is when you want to get your, this is when you're going to want to get your 3 tri-wing screws. And I just noticed this now. 2 of them are slightly shorter than the other ones. And I think I know why. There's 2 silver ones that are really shorter. This kind of scared me for a second, that's why I paused. Because I thought I forgot to screw something together. But there's 2 shorter ones that are silver, and then there's longer brass ones. The 2 shorter ones should go up top right here, and down right here. And then you'll have 4 brass ones, and they go in the 4 corners. That scared me really bad for a second, and you probably heard me pause just because I was so like befuddled that I didn't put something back together correctly, but I did. And this is set to the wrong setting, as I always forget. So let's put all these screws in. And I'm sorry if you don't like watching me screw everything back together, but some people want me to do it. Some people think this is helpful, just in case I like discover something as I'm putting it back together. Back together now. Put in a tiny one. I'm going to have to do the same thing I did before and put it on the screwdriver first, because these are really tiny. Well, the screws that were holding the brain to the game were even smaller. Alright, put the 2 brass ones down here, and then we'll put in the last tiny one. And like I said, if you want to see me do the battery-powered Game Boy Advance, which is the one I showed you at the beginning, go down to the description below this video and check that out. While you're down there, you can leave a like or subscribe. It would really be helpful, because I'm basically doing this for no reason right now. Because obviously I don't get paid by YouTube to do this. I'm not one of those YouTubers. But it would really help if you. What would also help is if I didn't like throw screws across the room, and by that I mean drop it 2 inches, but apparently I can't do that. Something I was going to say, but then I realized I forgot the little tiny button. I don't have any consoles that I can take apart right now, because I'm sure you guys want to see me take apart like an NES or an Xbox again, like I did before, because those were bigger things, more entertaining to watch, longer videos. But I don't have anything that I can take apart because I don't have a game bit to a screwdriver. If I ever get one of those, and they're not that expensive, I just don't want to buy one right now. If I ever get one, then I'll be able to take apart my N64, my SNES, and other things like cartridges and things like that. Alright, so after you get all the screws back in, obviously the 2 halves shouldn't come apart. Make sure you put the battery pack back in, or else it won't work. Put the cover over, and you can get your Phillips head and screw that back into place. And then you're done pretty much. It still works. And I don't have a game in, but all the buttons, if you feel them, they should all like have the little clicking feeling to them as if they're getting clicked down. Everything should work fine basically. So that is how to do a Game Boy Advance. How to clean and restore one, I should say. Again, if you want to see this version, click the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, everyone, and please leave a like or subscribe.